Hello and welcome to this week's beginner's guide. This week we'll be looking at the 4 Celestian Hero Skills, which can be found here on the hero screen. If you click skill points, you'll see what you have available to you and what you have learned. We have Cleansing Light, Aurora of Guidance, Revealing Soul, and Deny the Wicked, which come from the Celestian class, which we'll talk more about soon. After we talk about that, I want to talk more about the stronger synergies that exist in the game as is for the Celestian secret tech and the races that are in the game. I expect that the 2 expansions planned in 2020 will introduce a lot of new combinations for the Celestian class, which we'll cover more when we know more about those expansions, but I am comfortable enough with what we have to start putting guides together for all the different secret techs. So yeah, hopefully you find this useful. Okay, now let's take a closer look at Revealing Soul. Revealing Soul requires 4 skill points and no amount of previous experience, no level requirement. If we look at Deny the Wicked, you have to be level 6, and if I scroll down to Aurora of Guidance, you need to be level 4. Cleansing Light requires that you be level 5. It's nice having access to these skills earlier rather than later, so being able to choose this at the beginning of the game is nice, but when you actually read the details here, it's something that I would understand if you passed up. Spending 4 skill points to make your unit enlightened and to get a chance to apply soul burn isn't that useful, because there's a lot of mods which apply soul burn, a lot of operations which apply soul burn, and a lot of mods that apply enlightened. I think, yeah, this guy's enlightened here. I don't think I have anything on here which will cause soul burn if somebody attacks him, but there are ways to do that. Yeah, I don't think I have any of that stuff researched on this profile. But yeah, I would say that this is a pass. That's why I didn't take it at the beginning of the game. I don't think it's really worth investing in. Aurora of Guidance, which is the next Celestian Hero skill which you unlock, is requires you to only be level 4. It takes 4 skill points like the previous one, and it's almost like you have to take it. If you are leading a ranged force with a Celestian Hero, that extra 10% accuracy makes a massive difference. Going from 50% accuracy on a repeating attack to 60% it's going to make a big difference quite often. So I think that you should get this on pretty much any Celestian Hero, unless like they're just a supporting role in your main commanders, your leader's army. But just because of this skill alone, you should probably split up your Celestian, have them make your smaller units a little bit more deadly. Now we can move on to Cleansing Light, which is another really great skill. I like being able to heal my units as much as possible. Sometimes I give a hero like 2 or 3 healing abilities just so that they are a dedicated healer, and I'm not wasting points making them good at doing damage or taking damage, just recovering damage. And the fact that it has enlightened healing is really nice. It's only gonna heal a unit 20 HP at a range of 3 if you don't have any enlightened units in the battle. But let's say you have 5 other enlightened units in the battle, you can get 25 more HP on top of that 20. That's 55 HP. But you know, you do have to have enlightened units. If you like stagger resistance, I highly recommend you take this mod, because it allows you to make the most out of like your hero skills and your doctrines. Now we are ready to talk about Deny the Wicked, the last hero skill. Deny the Wicked it's okay. I like that this reduces damage against our units from people who are soul burnt, but you have to apply that soul burn for this to even do anything. It's relatively cheap, only 4 skill points to reduce the damage done to any unit in this army. They don't have to be enlightened as long as this leader's in charge. That makes a difference. It's like having 2 more pieces of armor, 2 more shields, but it's always what you want. Say somebody's attacking you with melee and it bypasses your shields. In that situation, it's like having 2 more pieces of armor. If somebody's using psychic damage and it bypasses armor, it's like having 2 more pieces of shields. So while I didn't take it, that's mostly because I don't use soul burn a whole lot. I typically build my Celestians to farming quests, but that doesn't mean this is a terrible skill and not worth investing in. So yeah, if you want to go for that, try it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. For me, it's not quite as good as Cleansing Light or Aurora of Guidance, but not quite a pass, not as much as this guy, Revealing Light. No, I mean, combined with Deny the Wicked, pretty good, but I don't know. There's other ways to soul burn, like your higher tier Celestian units, I believe. Now, before we jump into all the synergies between the different races and the Celestian secret tech, I did want to talk briefly about the backgrounds I like using, as well as some of the differences between the Lightbringers and Star Guides, which are different based on the race that you build it from. So yeah, like I said, we're going to start with backgrounds. Skilled Diplomat is a pretty great perk if you're going to be rushing influence gain and integrating NPC factions. Just by having a little boost to your relations with them, it will make things nicer. You'll be able to bribe people off of locations instead of having to fight them a little bit quicker. Like you always start next to a landmark, so you can bribe them off of the landmark a little bit quicker, and yeah, it helps with playing nicely and being a Celestian. So I do enjoy that, as well as the larger maybe it's large army. I guess it's not coming up, but you can choose one background which allows you to have a better more units. At the beginning of the game, you can have 9 units, or I think 6, maybe 7 units. You may get a scout on top of your starting location. So having more units that way allows you to tackle the quest from that first faction that you meet without as much risk. You can go right after it and sometimes even complete it on the very first turn. When you do that, that allows you to get a quest a little bit quicker. So yeah, when you consider that, that's a pretty strong start for the Celestian, and one that I recommend you try out. I think you'll like it, because that means you'll be able to buy more units from the NPC factions faster, get advantage of their landmarks a little bit faster, and their dwellings a little bit faster. So now we're ready to talk a little bit about the differences between the Lightbringers and the Star Guides. Forget which one's the lower tier. Is it the Star Guide? Your tier 3. Now let's start with the Lightbringer then. Lightbringer. So let's see, we have 6 Lightbringers here, and they're all slightly different. The Amazon one, you can tell right away, it's pretty different. He's got a flying Harrier that he's on, and that impacts this skill, the secondary skill, as well as just, allowing them to fly over things, and it increases the production / resources you need to invest in them to take advantage of your Lightbringer. But I think it's well worth it. I think it's a pretty awesome unit. By taking him off the ground and allowing Meteor Sweep to be a swoop that puts you in defensive mode is pretty sweet. Let's see. When you stop attacking with this one's attack, do you go into defensive mode? No, it doesn't look like you do. It looks like you just kind of launch yourself forward. It's a bit of a ranged attack. You need all of your action points to do that versus swoop. You do not. You only need one action point, so you can run forward, use that, and then be a bit more defensive. Although I don't know if that's how I would use this unit. Because while it does have some defenses, it could get killed, and you do want to be somewhat careful with these Lightbringers. They can punch pretty hard, but might die if you're not careful. Which brings us to the Assembly Lightbringer. Because they're Assembly, they can assimilate those that they attack in melee, so they are a little bit more, I think, tanky than a lot of the other Lightbringers. When you compare them to the Kir'ko get their melee ability Frenzy, making them do more damage, so these guys are slightly more into DPS as well as I guess a little bit of swarming. They can do swarm shielding with the other Kir'ko units. But yeah, if you compare their skills, Meteor Dash and Inferno Strike, they're the same. I think, yeah, the Dvar gets a burning Meteor Dash, which applies burning instead of stagger? You still stagger, but you can apply burning. That's the third bullet point. It just looks like it applies burning. It does what the other guys do, but you can burn your enemy if you use your secondary skill as the Dvar, which may be their own like gimmick, so it makes them special. I guess the developers gave them that to make them cool. These guys have Bone Crusher Dash, which is, I guess, kind of like the Enforcer attack, Bone Crusher, but instead of being a ranged attack, it works like the other dashes and then cripples the enemy. So I guess that's kind of like the Dvar's burning. You can cripple your enemy. We have our Vanguard Lightbringer, who has Assault Dash, giving you +2 shields after you attack. Pretty nice, I think. Very nice, seeing as the Vanguard don't have too many melee units. So yeah, keep that in mind. The Amazon too, I don't think have too many, so it's definitely useful having a couple units like this in your army. Now we can move on to the Star Guides, which are pretty similar if I remember correctly. So if we just kind of click through these, you can see that they're pretty similar. These guys don't have a melee attack, so even though they're assembly, they're not going to assimilate. I remember the Kir'ko have something special. Most of these guys have Light Bolt, Blinding Light, but their special skill here, the healing one, is slightly different for the Kir'ko. The Kir'ko has Regenerative Light, which heals 16 over 2 turns, 16 per turn over 2 turns, dispels any negative effects. Everybody else has Cleansing Light, which is 20 plus 5 per enlightened unit, which theoretically is a lot better than the Kir'ko one. I think the Kir'ko one used to have an AoE heal. I think I saw that on the forums, so that changed, and it may change again in the future, because honestly this is pretty pathetic when you compare it to the other healing. The Cleansing Light on this unit is going to potentially heal a lot more HP, and it has the same range. So yeah, I don't see why you'd go for Kir'ko one if you have access to any other one. The Syndicate get something different. Let's go to Syndicate. Deceiving Light. So their secondary attack causes hallucinating instead of blinding. And I believe that's the only other difference with the Star Guide. Okay, I think we're ready to start talking about my favorite combination with the Celestian Secret Tech. Celestian Syndicate is amazing at farming out the quests and experience to get your NPC factions as friendly as possible, as quickly as possible. When you combine noble diplomats with a couple other doctrines, you'll get an insane amount of influence every turn from just your passive income, and then your quests will give you a lot of influence. I think we have the 3 enacted that I wanted to talk about. Noble Diplomats gives you 1 extra influence per level of relationship with an NPC faction. We have 2 at peace, and we could take them up to integration to make them like us even more. We would get an extra 2 points for each faction. Right now we're getting 2 from the Aonam without the Noble Diplomats thing, but if you take into consideration the Noble Diplomats, we're getting 4 points of influence per turn from them, and we're getting 4 from the growth. We could be getting 6 each, so that's a lot. And then if we take a closer look at the Emissary, get 100% more influence from quests. I think it starts at 10 or so, maybe 15, and doubling that is amazing. So I would recommend you do that if you're trying to get the NPC factions on your side. If that's your strategy, I'd go for this, which is unlocked from completing the Empire quests. And then this is also quite nice. The relationship gain for completing quests is increased by 50%, allowing you to take yourself up to the next level quicker, as well as you get a little bit of a reputation bonus, I think, for completing each quest. Let's see if we got a couple here. Yeah, every time you complete a quest, you usually get plus 25. You can see at the bottom there it says plus 25 for completing a quest. And yeah, once you have enacted unification efforts, it looks like you just get plus 100, maybe not per quest, just plus 100 relationship for having that enacted, which is still good. It's still worth having. When you have a positive relationship, as you can see under there where it has effects, it makes shopping at dwellings a little bit cheaper, which is, yeah, all around great if your build is getting stuff from the NPC factions. I think you honestly, with this kind of influence gain, you'll be able to get 100 influence to buy a ascended teacher every 4 turns, and that's insane. Getting a tier 4 unit every 4 turns for influence, no energy, no cosmite, to buy it is amazing. Sure, you have to spend your strategic operation points on it, but it's well worth it. Now let's actually jump back over to our hero, who has some of the actual skills that we're going to talk about. Don't usually get this one. It's not worth the skill points. 4 points for flanker, no thanks. You can get it through mods and other ways. Deploying cerebral control colors, nice, because you can mind control an enemy, but there's lots of abilities that do that in the Celestian class, so not really necessary, worth passing if you aren't trying to mind control everything. If you're going for the NPC route like I usually do, you pass on this. It's not that great. Keen sight, I almost never take that because I don't usually use Overwatch on my heroes. I typically try to get them out launching rockets at the enemy, taking advantage of any opportunities they give me. Pass on these guys. I almost never take them. And escape module. Escape module is pretty good. I like it. It's pretty cheap. Only 3 skill points. Keeps you from dying a good chunk of the time if you're using your hero aggressively. And shield battery. I mean, yeah. If your hero's leading something, take shield battery. It's cheap and gives you 1 shields for potentially 6 units. Let's talk about the Celestian Vanguard next, which is a pretty nice combination. Being a mostly ranged faction, it is quite nice to be able to give them these melee units over here who can run forward and get a bit of shields. But not only that, you can put jetpacks on them, so if you know, they have this on cooldown. They can jetpack into safety or get another 3 attacks on a unit that's far away. You can jetpack next to another unit, maybe do some flanking damage. Pretty strong if used, you know, as strategically as possible. But there are some other nice mods that you have to choose from if you get to late game. That's amazing. Really, really nice. So is that, but you're probably not going to get to those too easily. You'll probably be getting things like the pacifism one, the healing thing to keep these guys fighting. Shields is always nice. Being able to apply soul burn from a melee range is nice, but these guys aren't the best at it, to be completely honest. You'll probably use other things to keep them alive. But jetpacking, I generally recommend. You can combine this guy, this stagger resistance, with this one to make them stagger immune. Pretty nice for a melee unit, but not necessary. If you want to focus on doing damage, you can make these guys better at doing damage. Also being able to just jetpack these other units, it's nice. Just because you get flanking attacks, yeah, keeps them safe. And also allowing them to do a reasonable amount of damage from a lot of places over the map. Now we can talk a little bit about the Hearts and Minds doctrine, which I think is pretty cool. It works pretty well with it's not in here. It's doctrines, that's right. It works pretty well with the strategy that I was talking about earlier, where you're just focusing NPC factions. You get plus 50% influence for completing quests, excuse me, and for absorbing colonies. That's 3 turns faster. That's also generally the way I like to play. So when I play Celestian Vanguard, I generally do implement our Hearts and Minds. Right, we need to not forget the hero skills. There's that. That's kind of what we're here for. So Dig In is a skill that I generally like to take with the Vanguard Celestian. We haven't taken anything because this guy's only level 1. Field Medicine is something I generally like to pass on. You can heal out of combat pretty easily, so no real need for that. Rallying Cry is a pass. Coordinated Strike can be okay, but honestly, I don't like putting that on my commander. I usually have my commanders do damage. Iron Discipline, it could be useful if you're fighting somebody who does psychic damage, but I wouldn't take it unless you know you're fighting maybe the Psyfish or I don't know, Syndicate or somebody who has a lot of psychic damage. Giving yourself extra morale can be good if everybody is non-mindless. If they're mindless, yeah, don't worry about it. Battle Plan, another thing that I'd probably pass on. And we don't have anything over here to talk about. A Celestian Kir'ko is a really nice combination because they have a nice diplomatic route in the tech tree. You get a lot of doctrines which are either military focused, this one is military focused, or diplomatic, and if you focus on those things, you get some really powerful doctrines. But this is late game tech. Getting to that point is going to take a pretty big investment. If you combine that with Harmonious Existence, which is, here we go, I found it. Each colony that you own of a race that's not your starting one will give you plus 100 relations to that race, because this one basically gives you influence for every non-Kir'ko colony, and if you start off as Kir'ko, this benefits those same colonies. You can basically grab a colony that's not like your starting race like this, make a colonizer, and get a lot more influence. I wish it said right here that I was getting +2 for a Kir'ko colony, or not Kir'ko, an Amazon colony over here, but if I end the turn really quickly, it should just cycle through, have that guy make his new base, and we'll go from 7 to 9, displaying how that basically works. So yeah, it's literally every single one that you have gives you more influence, and then also make it so you get more benefits from this stuff. I think if you got a lot of positive stuff, yeah, it makes your colonies happier, and it makes it so that the units that you make from that race are a lot more effective. So yeah, let's start talking about the other things, the other combinations. If you want to put stagger resistance on your Kir'ko melee units, you get access to that through this right here. It's incredible. You want that if you can get it. If you can get stagger resistance, you should get it through an early mod, especially since the Kir'ko benefit a lot from swarming together and grouping up. So the staggering AoEs are a pretty big threat to them. I like getting that on my units as early as possible. And I think that's all I had on my notes for the non-hero skill synergies for the Kir'ko. Let's start talking about the hero skills. So, like with the last one, I actually haven't put any skills on him. Let's try and find our Kir'ko skills. Selfless sacrifice, it's pretty nice. In general, so if you're trying to be more of a support commander, take that. If not, if you're trying to do damage, you can pass on that. It's not that expensive, but it's still 3 skill points that could go elsewhere. Fury of the Swarm is really nice, so if you've got stagger resistance on this unit and some of the other units, you can take advantage of the Swarm a lot more. Frenzied Assault, pretty normal for Kir'ko. I don't know, not really worth it. I don't like going melee with my commanders. Locked. Let's see what we have here. Echo of a Hive Mind. Yeah, that's a good one. That's worth taking in the late game. Shrouded Step. It's another thing which I think I mistaked Selfless Sacrifice with that one. They're both pretty similar in that they're support skills that I wouldn't necessarily put on my commander, but every once in a while it's nice because your commander has lots of HP. He can tank quite a bit. But out of those two, I'd probably take Shrouded Step before Selfless Sacrifice. Selfless Sacrifice is, yeah, you don't really want low HP on your commander, so taking damage from other units and putting on your commander, maybe not the best. Invigorating Pheromones, yeah, the Celestians are biological units, so it could work. That's pretty good. I think so, yeah. Probably take that in a later game. Guiding Presence, yeah, I don't know. If you want it, you can get it, but it's not really synergizing with the Celestian. Oh, I did want to mention that there is a pretty sweet little operation that you can use to make it easier to do mind control. If you use Noxious Bombardment, you get -2 resistance on all enemy units, and then you can try and use the Ascended Teacher's Compelling Presence ability, and it's more likely to go through, so definitely worth keeping in mind. Celestian Amazon is one of the combinations that I don't have a lot of experience with, but seems like a very powerful combination. If you use your Biomancers properly, you can make it pretty easy to get your Ascended Teacher's Compelling Presence to go through. And in case you weren't aware, if this goes through, you can get a colonist in a city. It doesn't matter what size the city is, if it's size 20, if it's size 5, you get a colonist. So that's really nice in the late game, using Biomancers that aren't necessarily from your class, but just with this unit is super nice. If you do it out at sea with embarked units, say not these mobs, but an enemy, say an enemy had units out at sea, you could lower their resistance to mind control that way. So yeah, lots of really cool things that you can do with the Amazon's Biomancer. I really like that you can scan right from the beginning of the game. Obviously you won't have the ability to use this mind control from the very beginning of the game. This T4 unit is pretty difficult to unlock, but as soon as you have it unlocked, you're going to be able to start taking advantage of that mind control, or at least you should be able to take advantage of that mind control. Now let's actually jump into the skills themselves. I know this guy's Promethean, but we're just gonna look at the Amazon skills for a second. Animal discipline, not so great. I don't think the Star Guide counts as, it's not Star Guide, it's the Lightbringer. I don't think that counts as an animal I can spell. Are you an animal? I don't see animal listed here, so it does not appear as if they would benefit from that mod. There's very little reason to put it on an Amazon unless you have just been able to convert a lot of animal units using the Amazon stuff, but you know, maybe you want that. Biological expert could be nice because the Celestian units are biological, except for I think maybe this guy. Are you ethereal or something? Yeah, you're not biological, but most of the Celestian units are. And then let's go back to here. Ranger training's nice. Actually, wait, no, I thought of something else. Ranger training is not nice. It's pretty terrible. We're a waste of skill points. Visual acuity, that's nice. That's the one I thought that was for a second. Having a little bit of extra range, always good. Allows you to maybe apply. I don't think you can do soul burn through attacks, but maybe you can. It's nice just to be able to attack from far away, even if you know it's not combining with your Celestian class. Take that. Warcry. No, you don't need Warcry. Call of the Wild, yeah, I'd say get Call of the Wild. Call of the Wild's always good. And Renewal is, yeah, probably come in pretty useful. Being able to heal a biological or cyborg unit for 30. That won't go on your Ascended Teacher, but Ascended Teachers are pretty tanky, and I think maybe capable of healing themselves. Well, if you give them nanite injectors, they are. This is a friendly unit in a 1 hex radius. Oh, this is quite powerful. I didn't see that earlier. I don't really use this unit too often for healing, as you can see, but I guess that would also apply to itself. It could also heal itself as long as it's not staggered. So keep that in mind. Celestian Assembly is one of the more popular combinations for player versus player, and I think that's mostly because this unit right here has Assimilate, and if you put this one that gives soul burn to units that attack it, it's pretty annoying to deal with because you can apply soul burn really early on. You can throw yourself forward, apply soul burn, and then if this unit dies, maybe you use your main hero to reassemble them. It's locked because this guy's low level, but being able to reassemble units that are applying soul burn in the front line is very, very, very nice, and I think something that might need to get nerfed in the future, to be completely honest, but it's still at this point in time worth investing in. Like, they nerfed Assimilate, but it's not enough for this combination. You're still gonna be pretty hard to kill. The Celestian have a lot of ways to keep your units alive and to heal them, and the Assembly also do that. So good luck taking them out quickly. Now we're ready to talk about these actual skills that we have here. We have Assimilate, so this guy can do what these guys are doing here, assimilate when they attack with melee attacks. I don't generally put this guy into melee range, my hero, so maybe something I would pass on, but it's pretty good with this combination if you're playing Soul Burn, and maybe you've got a way to resurrect your main commander, like a mod or something along those lines. This thing having +2 resistance to all status effects, quite nice, especially if you're going against a player who's specialized in status effects, maybe an Amazon. Stabilizers is good if you don't already have the stagger resistance, but there's lots of ways to get it. I might pass on spending the skill points on it. Battlefield repairs, not worth it. Pass on that. Cybernetic overdrive. Yeah, I don't think it's worth Actually, wait a minute. These guys aren't biological because they're assembly units. Yes, no, it's good with these guys because they are turned into cyborgs. As assembly units, they're all cyborgs. So, yeah, your cybernetic overdrive skill, pretty good. Not terrible. Not my favorite because it takes away an action point from your leader and gives it to somebody else who might do less damage. So, I don't know. Generally, I like to keep my action points on my leader if I can. Stunning Discharge. No. It's okay, but like with Cybernetic Overdrive, you can probably do more with your attack than try to stun somebody. It's just, yeah. It's not my favorite way to use my hero. I guess it could be okay, but I'd pass. Reassemble, take it. Just take it. That's so good. 35 HP healing, or excuse me, heal up to 50% of the max, and excuse me, it does also heal 35. I thought I got it wrong for a second, but I got it right, and now I'm potentially confusing people. But it's a great skill because you're either healing or bringing a unit back from the dead. Only affects ground targets, so yeah, you won't be able to do that on your flying units, or I think even out at sea, maybe at sea, but overall worth using because of the healing, I think, and then resurrection is super nice. The last combination we're going to look at is the Celestian Dvar, which admittedly I have little to no experience with. I loaded up this scenario last night and played around a little bit with it so that I made sure that I knew about all the mods and potential combinations that you can use. And I think the main advantage that these guys have, the Dvar, is that they are pretty hard to kill in the first round of combat. So if you put a Shield of Remorse on your units, then the enemy will get soul burn when attacking you, and also Remorse, making them take more damage from your units that are enlightened, and also so that they have lower morale. It can stack multiple times. It doesn't look like it has a limit, so you can take them down to pretty low on their morale. If their attacks go through, they're just going to do less damage next time. So if you've got enough people that can heal your other units, enough skills that can heal your guys that do take damage, that's a very, very strong combination. Now, I wish I had more tips for the Dvar, but unfortunately I didn't see too much synergy myself. Some people were saying there's some nice area of effect attacks and some powerful single hit attacks. I guess that either the Celestian have access to, the Dvar have access to, or both, and just the synergy of the Celestian units with the Dvar units, it works well. They pair well together, and I think this has a lot to do with their powerful single attacks. You can run on one side, flank with your Star Guide, or what's the other guy called? The Lightbringer. I think they both have some reasonably strong single attacks, so use that if you can to do some flanking on one side, flank on the other side. That unit's probably dead. If you're flanking properly with the right units, it doesn't take much to kill off a unit. So yeah, now let's talk a little bit about our hero upgrades that you have to choose between. I almost never take motivated. I don't think it's a good use of a turn, especially on a hero. It might be good on a 4-man. I don't know, I don't really play Dvar. Typically I feel like that's a waste of a turn though. Juggernaut's okay. I'd probably pass on that. Yeah, pass on that one. If you're going to be passing on this one, let's pass on this one too. Siege Master, I like that one a lot. I think having extra +2 resistances is always nice. It's not that hard to get cover, and some units count as cover, so you can use that as your cover. Hardness training can be good if you're facing a player who's using that type of stuff, using stats effects. I'd say that's worth getting. If you're just going against Marauders, probably not worth investing in. Stubborn, I don't know. If you got any bit of stagger resistance, that feels like a bit of a waste. There is a skill that uses 2 skill points to get to stagger immunity. This or stagger resistance, so I guess maybe just spending one more point to get stagger immunity is kind of worthwhile, but I don't know. I just don't feel it. I feel like there's better options. Armor is really nice unless you're facing people who do psychic damage, then less nice. Nitro Battery doesn't pair well with the Celestian class, but it does pair decently well with the Dvar, so I could see you taking that and making use of it. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe. I'm thinking that we're going to try and do a guide like this once a week for the next few weeks. I did the Heriter Secret Tech last week, and I'm thinking we'll do Xenoplague next week, the upcoming week. If you've got any suggestions for me after the new year, I'd love to get some ideas from my audience. I got this one, really, the Synergy Guide from you guys, and yeah, I'm interested to see what else you feel like you might need help with. I'm having a lot of fun putting these together. It's tough researching it, trying to get everything in one go, but I think it's a nice digestible amount of information. So yeah, see you around. Have a good one.